Welcome. This presentation is a step-by-step introduction to how to make and use a perceptual map. If you want the overview on how perceptual maps help us with our positioning strategies, that is in your Chapter 9 slides, slide deck I, in the positioning section. This specific one is the more step-to-step guide, so how things are actually laid out. So now let's learn about this handy tool that helps us chart out our consumers' perceptions of what options they have. So what is a perceptual map? A perceptual map is a chart that shows how an individual or an aggregation of individuals evaluate their options along two different categories. So the two categories are along this y-axis and this x-axis. The x-axis in this case is a kind of drinker, or for what drinker. So in this case, child to adults. So primarily meant for kids versus primarily meant for adults. The y-axis is nutrition. So low nutrition to high nutrition. The extent of the drink is considered low to highly nutritious. So you can see that this is a customer or target market's perception on drinks. So for us, the first step in using your perceptual map is figuring out what do you want to know about. So perceptual maps are very helpful at seeing how consumers compare across two different attributes that vary in strength. So two different attributes that vary in strength. So not just one or the other, they vary. So you can reflect, well, what kinds of problems? Well, how does your consumer compare different options for a consumer problem they might have? So maybe something like, what should I drink today with lunch? What should I do this weekend with friends? What car brand do I want to look around for? What movie should I recommend to my friend? So step 2, here are the parts. So we first draw the two intersecting lines. So we've got the x-axis left and right. That's horizontal. And then your y-axis, up and down, vertical. Each end represents one extreme for one of your dimensions. So you see here, x1 is one extreme of the low or lowest level category, x2, highest level or other extreme. Same goes with y1 and y2. Now, how to pick? So what dimensions to pick though? So what you want is to pick attributes the perceiver can use to perceive, that is, to understand or judge a set of options. So you don't want to just get what you think you are or what you think you are supposed to be, but you want what the customer, consumer, user, or client can or will think about their options. So what are their perceptions? So ideally, besides this, you also want options that fall along a continuum for a dimension. So you don't want just either yes or no or this or that. You want it to vary. Another quick thing on dimensions is which one to pick and where. Well, many Western readers read from left to right, higher to lower. Therefore, we often put the lower or more negative options to the left or down to show progression from left to right or down to up. Okay, so we've got our problem. We've got our dimensions. Now let's plot the options. So this one is, again, our drinks. What drink should I have? We can see how this perceptual map might be for a customer or target market that asks, well, what drink should I have? So for the perceptual map, they use drinker, or rather, who is the drink for, and nutrition. Notice that the drinks vary along both these categories. So we don't just see one quadrant, one quadrant, one quadrant, one quadrant. It's not just purely child or purely adult drink. It's not just low or high nutrition. So instead, we see that things like, okay, sugared soft drinks, perfectly even whether it's more of a kids or adults drink, but everyone agrees, not everyone, but it's considered very low nutrition compared to all the other drinks. Meanwhile, chocolate milk over here is considered much more nutritious. See, we're closer to this end, but very far to the left, so it's very much a kids drink for kids. So you can see how any of these fall along the four quadrants, and their strength in being able to see how, hey, they may all be in the same quadrant, but they vary in where they're in the quadrant. So you can see both coffee and skinny latte are considered adult drinks and not so nutritious, but you can see that the latte is considered more adult and a little healthier than, say, regular coffee. As to your managerial question, well, this was based on what chocolate milk companies want to do. And they realized that nutrition was something, hey, we're rated highly on. This is great. But who is this drink is meant for was a limiter for attracting potential adult drinkers. Because, well, I'm an adult drinker. I don't drink things for kids. I drink things for grown-ups or normal drinks. So the power of the perceptual map is we can use any two dimensions that are useful for an analysis. So in this case, they use these two, but you could pick a whole bunch. Price and quality, convenient to buy and price, flavor and health, all sorts. Now, I want you to try. So let's say, or rather, you'll be trying on your own completely, but let's go for another example first. So let's say I'm buying a cake for a birthday. And in this case, this consumer or consumer group is concerned with both the price and what we will call prestige for this example. So prestige of the cake, as we'll put it, was the consumer's nebulous sense of the cake's aesthetic or markers of good taste. So, not just literal taste, as in it was delicious, but a sense of what is better to their reference groups. So, lower leveled prestige would be something seen as more mundane or a basic cake for this consumer. Higher end suggests aesthetic or sense it's a higher end cake for suitable for fancier occasions. So, you can guess that this is something that maybe we might not have known without some research. So you can see that we try to list our axes. You want to list them to be very clear on what you mean by your categories. That will help people keep them from getting confused. Like, well, what does it mean a high prestige? The other dimension may be a little more familiar. This one is simply price. Less money needed by size versus expensive. More money needed by size, basically depending on how much cake you get. So here were the options for this customer or target market at least. Notice how it's not just one option per quadrant, but how they fall along those two dimensions. So you can see on the one hand, the celebration package, as we kind of term type cakes, cakes that you might buy at a premium because it's convenient. So Chuck E. Cheese, a trampoline park, the hotel, they have cakes. They're convenient. No one expects them to be all that nice. Or high price and lower prestige. Albertsons and Sam's Club are close here where it's lower to the average prestige, but lower in price because they're a little lower here. We have Baskin Robbins ice cream cake here at the higher price, but nicer in prestige. At high prestige but high price, you get these boutique bakeries. And then finally, higher prestige but also lower price to consider that the consumers consider to be lower price is 85 Degrees and Portos. You can see how splitting along these dimensions is more than just, oh, expensive or not, but how expensive compared to another and how much better along those two dimensions, or maybe just a superstar in one. You can see that the ice cream cake gets a bit of a boost over, say, typical grocery store bakeries for this customer. And you can consider maybe if you're a brand where you fit in, so maybe you sell bundt cakes that you get fancy flowers in the center or something like that, or cool little footballs. I don't know. You might talk about that, about where you could put yourself, and maybe figure out even deeper about, say, whether you put flowers or a cute little Pokemon figurine. Who knows? Anyway. So a quick thing to think about. You can see how we lay out here I've told you how sometimes we kind of arrange things because, especially Western readers, often infer progression when we go from left to right, down to up. Keep that in mind when deciding how your dimensions should be ordered. So you can see how this one switched where price and prestige were. And you can see before, Portos and 85 degrees were below and down here. And that could make us unconsciously perceive them in a lesser spot in our analysis. But instead, really, they hit the sweet spot for a lot of people because they're both inexpensive but pretty decent prestige. So the book shows how you can plot a perception change. In this case, the chocolate milk companies went, okay, this is how customers tend to rate drinks along nutrition and whether they're more of a kid's drink versus an adult drink. And we want consumers to think of us less as a kid's drink over here and more that there are chocolate milk brands for adults. We want our brand to move from here to here with the star. And so they may still think of chocolate milk in general over here, but maybe now they have a new category where there are adult chocolate milk. Now you try. Grab a piece of paper or you can edit the slide right this moment. Just escape and go to the slide. There's also a bigger version if you want a bigger version to play around with, if you want more space. But anyway, feel free to try this out and share with us. Post to our discussion boards, email me if you got questions. What I want to see is that, well, this is something useful that may be helpful for your projects and your future endeavors. So give it a shot, see how it works. And especially even if you don't make one for yourself, now you can read one. Now you know the logic of one. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. llouis@laverne.edu, and take care. Have a good day or evening or what have you. And whatever ideas, take them, run with them, see where they lead you. Who knows? Might be some interesting things to come.